Welcome back to Sahara TV. My name is Rudolf Okonkwo. These are busy days in Nigeria. Last night, 100 people, prominent people, were honored in a dinner to mark Nigeria's 100 years in existence. On Monday, President Goodluck Jonathan had his first media chat of the year, where he addressed several issues, including the suspension of the CBN governor, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi. He also talked about the increasing attacks of Boko Haram and the missing $20 billion from the NNPC. We are going to discuss some of these things with some prominent political commentators. Joining us from Maryland is Chris Aniedobe. Chris is a political commentator and also an intellectual property attorney. Chris, welcome to Sahara TV.
Thank you, Rudolph. You're doing a good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Later on, we are going to connect to Alex Kabba, who is the publisher and the editor-in-chief of African Abroad USA here in New York. He's driving now, so we're going to connect with him as soon as possible. So, Chris, let me start with you. So I don't know if you've been following what is going on in Abuja. There's been this big rollout to celebrate Nigeria at 100. What is your take on that celebration going on?
All right. Well, we have been in existence since 1914 as an amalgamated entity. Celebration is always good. It makes for national unity, promotes oneness. I am all for it. However, the fear in my mind, and surely in those of other Nigerians, is that good things get taken for granted. I mean, it's a worthy celebration, but at what cost? Would the level of poverty in Nigeria, lack of infrastructure, anemic power supply, and stuff, we really have to be mindful of how much money we splash on these things. And so, on the one hand, celebration is good. On the other hand, it's going to give a lot of corrupt people opportunity to dip their hands into the treasury and wipe away a lot of money that could have helped poverty-stricken Nigerians.
Now, Chris, let me say that during the media chat, which we are going to get into later, the president said that it wouldn't cost Nigeria a lot of money because it's mainly from private sources. He said that they basically will only feed the governors who will come. But let's leave that alone. Let's talk about the period that this is happening, where you have these increasing attacks from Boko Haram, including this attack on the Federal Government College, where a lot of kids were killed. Is that the mood? Is that the right time? Some people are suggesting that should have made the government to reduce the scale of the event. Do you think it was the right time to do this the way it was done?
All right. I should say one thing. It appears that the president's notion of a lot of money does not accord with the notion of the ordinary person about a lot of money. I mean, it looks like in Abuja, $10 billion does not seem to be a lot of money, but that's neither here nor there. But yes, in view of the security challenges we're facing in Nigeria, particularly in northern Nigeria, and we ought to scale down any sort of celebration. This is definitely not the right time for it. And so, yes, a lot of circumspection is called for. There are security risks involved. If I'm a foreign dignitary, I'll be very careful about where I go to in Nigeria. If I'm the president of Nigeria under these circumstances, I would definitely watch my back, because it does appear as if Boko Haram will pull the trigger if they find the president or any other marquee political figure right in their bull's eye. And so one needs to be careful with the climate in Nigeria. It really does not call for wide celebrations. Again, we need to watch our purse. Our foreign reserves are going down. We're hardly in a position to celebrate in an extravagant manner.
Mm. Now, last night they gave honors, certificates, and medals to 100 people who contributed a lot to the making of Nigeria. Are you worried about that list? Is there people, names of people that are on the list that you feel should not be on that list?
I would not name names, but it's sort of like deja vu. This is Nigeria. It's a country where moral standards are very lax, and people don't know where to draw the line. And so the list making has all sorts of political motivations behind it. It's always controversial when you make lists, but there are clearly people there, including dictators, copists, oppressors, and very corrupt people who shouldn't be on that list. We know that. But just like everything else, we lack the political will to do the right thing in Nigeria. And that seems to be the problem all along. And so I wasn't surprised when I saw the list, just like in all the national awards that comes out once every year. You know that it's not anything to be taken seriously. And frankly, I don't take it seriously.
Now, for little kids who are studying Nigerian history and they just read about someone like Sani Abacha, and they put on their TV yesterday and saw that Abacha's wife came to receive an honor to mark Nigeria's 100 years. What kind of message is that sending to those kids?
It's sending a message that reinforces Nigeria's culture of impunity. We are a country without moral standards. It's deplorable. This president seems to not understand that some of the body language he gives us and tells a lot about how he sees Nigerian history. And sometimes when I look at his utterances and remarks and everything, I wonder if he's fully abreast of Nigerian history and how important it is. But going forward, Rudolf, there are many, many people in Nigeria who have done a lot to deserve that country, both as ex-head of states, ex-military generals, ex-rulers, ex-ministers and stuff. I don't know where to start. It's a very long list. Abacha certainly tops the list, but there's a whole lot of list of people who have done a lot to be trapped in the criminal justice system, if we had any, forever, and not be honored in any way. And so, like everything else, we're going to have to retell the story. The narrative is still the same. We are a corrupt country with no moral standards, no political fiber, just the same continuing story. And you hope that someday down the road, somebody will wake up and start telling the right stories.
All right, let's talk about the media chat. On Monday, the president had a chat and he addressed some of the hot-button issues we have in Nigeria. One of them was his suspension of the central bank governor, Sanusi Lamido. I will now play the clip, a video of what the president said about Lamido Sanusi's suspension, and then I will ask you to respond.
So if there are allegations about the CBN governor, it becomes a problem for you to look into it. And there are issues raised. These are the 2012 audit reports. And for you to look into those issues, we feel that for you to be sure of what you are doing, CBN governor can just step aside. Senator just step aside. So immediately the board and the financial reporting council sort out those gray areas. And it does not affect.
Okay. I understand that Alex Kabba, publisher of African Abroad, has joined us. Alex Kabba, welcome to Sahara TV. Alex Kabba, can you hear me? All right, Chris, I don't know if you had the clip that we played. That was the president saying that there were issues raised about Sanusi, and for them to investigate the issue, he needed to step aside. That was the basis of his decision. So my question to you is, were you surprised that they have that kind of policy in Nigeria, knowing that when allegations were leveled against other government officials, especially someone like the former aviation minister, Stella Dua, they did not implement that policy? Or do you think this is just a cover-up for a different issue, reason why he was suspended?
It's definitely a loaded question. There's a lot of blames to go around. Mr. President and screwed up in many fronts. If he knew that Mr. Sanusi was taking advantage of the system and doling out all this money in an unauthorized fashion, where was he? Why did he not take action? Why didn't he even try to suspend him, even if he didn't have the power? I would have liked to see the president take action against Mr. Sanusi when he saw that things were going wrong with the central bank. So now, before we start worrying about the propriety of his actions, you would have liked to see something. But the fact that Mr. President went after Mr. Sanusi right after Mr. Sanusi persisted in letting the country know that a lot of money is going. There's a lot of political undertone surrounding the firing of Mr. Sanusi, even if Mr. Sanusi has done a lot worthy to be suspended. And so it's hard for Mr. President to be making all these statements with a clean face. It's not proper. Whatever is going on, we ought to be alarmed that a country like Nigeria, with all the experts we have, can't account for $20 billion in oil revenue. Even if it's $10 billion, it's still material. In fact, it's too material for anyone in government, including the Minister of Finance, to come out and call a press conference, tell the world that we don't know what happened to $10.8 billion, let alone $20 billion. So yes, Mr. President is really indicting himself in the way he's going after Mr. Sanusi. But when you look at it, Mr. Sanusi has not been the kind of central bank governor you like him to be. The central bank governor should not be a controversial figure. He's not going about things the right way. Makes off the cuff comments that central bank governors should not make, because his statements are really worthy, and international figures are looking at him to see where Nigeria's economy is going. So Mr. Sanusi is someone who did a lot to be separated from the central bank, but I don't believe that he was separated from the central bank in the right manner.
All right. Do we have Alex Kabba? All right.
Yeah, so Rudolf,
yeah. Okay, Alex Kabba, welcome to Sahara TV.
I beg your pardon?
I said welcome to Sahara TV.
Thank you, sir.
So we are discussing the media chat that the president had on Monday. And I was speaking to Chris about the answers he gave. And we were talking about Sanusi, why he suspended Sanusi Lamido, the central bank governor. What is your take on the president's answer to the timing of that suspension?
Yeah, it's obvious that the president is just doing a payback game. He's a mesh in corruption. The man is surrounded by corrupt people. And there is an old African saying that, show me your friends, and I will tell you who you are. The president that we have today is not ready to wage any war on corruption. So when one of his inner circle, one of the members of his inner circle, like a person like Soludo, who is in government, now has the bravery to tell him the truth, he couldn't take it, and he had to fire. I had to suspend him. Use the word suspend, because suspension and firing is the same thing, because the end effect is the same. The man is removed from his chair. So right there, you know that Jonathan slush fund that Sanusi has exposed was the main reason why he was suspended. And anybody who thinks contrary, is either in government money, or is just not very good upstairs.
Okay. Now let's look at the other issue that was raised, Boko Haram. And that media chat happened when there was an attack that happened days before and the days after. And the president said essentially that people were focusing on the failures and not on the success of the military in curtailing Boko Haram. He actually said that Boko Haram has been, of course, ineffective in Abuja, and that they are basically running into the country to attack and running out through Cameroon. Let's play a clip of that and get your reaction, Chris, on President's answer about Boko Haram.
If the strategy had not been working hard, I don't think we would have been moving freely in Abuja. So they've been able to push this to almost at the fringes. They were not too long ago, they came out close to around Maiduguri, and of course when they attacked the helicopters and so on. Well, that was an incident that should have became quite close. But otherwise, it has been happening in the communities, in the mountainous areas, the border between Cameroon. That's why you read from the papers where they come and attack them.
Okay, essentially, the government line is that they've been able to contain them in major areas, cities where people live, that they are basically now operating at the fringe of society. He also used the opportunity to attack, I would say, the governor of Borno State for saying that the military are not motivated and that they are not well armed. And he threatened, he said that if the governor wants, he could pull off the military from the state and see what will happen. Now, Chris, what is your take on the position of the government on this increasing attack by Boko Haram?
Okay, this is something that I would take a whole day to talk about. But Boko Haram is becoming a threat to the unity of Nigeria. I don't believe that this president has a good handle on the enormity of the challenges facing him. And one thing is, Boko Haram is not an ideological issue alone. There's a lot of political machinations behind it. But Mr. President cannot rely on just one option to fight Boko Haram. They're becoming successful, more and more successful, killing innocent people with no abatement in sight. I believe that there's a failure of intelligence here, and the military strategy is clearly not working as well as it should, even if Mr. President has got some successes here and there on the international arena. Our borders are so porous. There's no reason why we can't talk to neighboring countries, get their help, at least get their permission to pursue these people to the ends of the earth. Internally, people are sponsoring Boko Haram. The money is not coming from Tehran or from Iraq or whatever. These people are so well organized, so well funded. We're not even trying to choke off their source of funding. So there are many things about Boko Haram that Mr. President is not doing right, and I think that he needs to get back on the drawing table and realize that this is a challenge that will not go away.
All right, Alex Kabba, what is your take on the president's answer about Boko Haram?
The president has been, all his actions have been reactive in the case of Boko Haram. They are not taking any initiative, and they are not using intelligence, and just as the governor of the state said, the governor of Borno said, the soldiers are not motivated, going by the report that when the Boko Haram fighters were entering some of the villages that they attacked, the Nigerian army, the battalion of the Nigerian army were running away. This was in the news report. And so, and you also heard that the last attack in that secondary school for boys in Yobe State, you also heard that the checkpoint, all the security apparatus of the Nigerian army that was in place where we withdrew. We withdrew them within hours of the attack. We don't know what's going on. And then the Nigerian budget today, the defense is the lion's share. So Nigeria is just reacting to all these attacks. They are not using intelligence, and these soldiers too, they are not properly motivated to want to fight the war to win. So that's why we have this ending war, internal war that has been going on, that Nigeria has defended that it's not a war. This no longer attack. This has become a full-blown war because they come now and wipe out villages and burn them to ashes, as if government does not exist. So I believe that Nigeria is in a declared war with the Boko Haram, and why the Nigerian government in Abuja is playing the ostrich.
All right, let's look at one topic more before we go to our national conference. The topic of kerosene subsidy is at the heart of this issue about the money that is not remitted by the NNPC. NNPC, they are saying that they use the money to pay for subsidy on kerosene, which was not budgeted for. That question was put to the president, and the reporter asked the president about the directive that Yar'Adua's government put in place, saying that there should not be subsidy on kerosene. Let's listen to what the president said about kerosene subsidy.
Was that directive passed on to the appropriate quarter? was that directive disobeyed by those who ought to have implemented it? I don't need to be briefed.
Sorry, we didn't play in most of it. But he said essentially that he didn't need to be briefed about kerosene, directive on kerosene, that he was involved. He went on to say that he was, as vice president, he was involved in the discussion about kerosene subsidy. Now, what we got from the president's answer was that he knew from the beginning that there was a subsidy on kerosene. He knew that this subsidy was not paid for, was not budgeted for. And essentially, he knew by implication that the NNPC they were the ones taking care of this subsidy. So the question I'm asking is, we haven't even gotten to the bottom of this in terms of what did the president know, when did he know this, and if he was aware that over 200 billion or more was being spent without going through appropriation by the NNPC, and he did not do anything about that. And if this did not come out from a letter from Sanusi, the country will not know that NNPC was running a government of their own. Chris, what do you think about what is going on here? Have we gotten to the bottom of this?
One, it's alarming, it's scandalous, it's ridiculous. We've been this way before. During the petroleum subsidy debate, we had many panels set up, committees set up, and all of that happens to have been buried until the corruption still continues. We are a country run by a bunch of cabals. We know that. And the cabals are behind the oil subsidy, so you stop them in one area to go in another area. I believe that the NNPC setup is a bunch of cabals really sucking the country dry. But we know how they survive. In order to thrive in Nigeria as a corrupt person, you share the money. And so the reason why people are not taking decisive action against NNPC as they should, the reason why NNPC is running its own government, is because the people in government are getting a cut of the corruption. So we know what the playbook is. If you're going to survive in corruption, you share the money with politicians. So their hands are all enmeshed in it. They can't take decisive action. So it's 360 degrees corruption. What's more, I'm not surprised. This is how Nigeria functions. Now, until the president really takes good handle on NNPC and who is running it and all that stuff and takes decisive action to clean up NNPC, Nigeria is going to keep losing a lot of money from that establishment.
Alex Kabba, the president said in his own words, I was involved. So what should Nigerian people do now?
Nigerian people have to realize that it is very difficult to hold presidents accountable in Nigeria from our own recent experience. Most Nigerian presidents are always doing things with impunity because they know that there is no repercussion. Is it the Senate or the House of Reps that are going to say, okay, what are they going to do? They are going to come tomorrow. If you start any probe now in the Nigerian Senate or the House of Reps, they're going to come with bags of Ghana must go to quiet everybody down with maybe 1 million. If you are too stubborn, they give you $2 million US. So they are not effective separation of power in Nigerian democracy as we have today. So now the president knows this too, that if there is a strong move to sanction him on this kind of behavior, it will fizzle in the legislature because the legislators are going to play ball with them through bribery and corruption. They have not been able to come out that they are independent arm of government since 1999.
Okay, now we have like 2 minutes left. Let me just quickly ask you guys. Another jamboree is starting next week, which is the national conference. So we have something else to talk about and move on from whatever we were talking about last week. Chris, what is your take? What do you expect to see happen, or what do you think will happen at the national conference?
I am all for the national conference. I think it's going to be therapeutic for Nigeria, but I don't expect anything to come out of it. The modalities makes it very difficult for anything to really come out of it. Nigeria is a country where many people, many interest holders are really, really deeply entrenched in their position. And frankly, I don't think that Nigeria is ready to be a country, nor is Nigeria ready to fall apart. And so we're going to, at the end of the conference, going to keep trudging along, and everyone is going to take back their position in the churches and try to get Jonathan out of power if they're in the opposing camp, or put him in power if they're in the ruling party. So it's going to be, so it's going to be just a nice, good, therapeutic interaction for all the ethnic groups. But other than that, I really don't think much is going to come out of it.
Alex Kabba, do you have someone representing you, and have you briefed them on what to say on your behalf?
Well, I know that this national conference, when you say anybody wants to go and represent me, this national conference, is just going to be temporary, just as you said. Nothing is going to come out of it that will be of consequence to the Nigerian condition. It's just a place where they have placed so many no-go areas. You cannot talk about our unity. It is settled. You cannot talk about how all money is shared. It's settled. You cannot talk about so many things which are wrong with Nigeria today. So what kind of talk shop is that? What kind of talk shop? We're in a country where people still don't like each other. People still don't like each other. They disgrace each other in secret and talk ill of each other. There's no law that bans people from hating. Hatred, not hatred of a lot of hatred in Nigeria. Yoruba will hate Igbo, Igbo will hate Yoruba, Hausa will hate Igbo, and vice versa. And once there's a riot, they kill each other, So the state of origin is still there, instead of state of residence. So there are so many things that are wrong with Nigeria today that many of them are not even they are in no go area. So I will have a National Assembly that should be doing this. There's a national assembly that is powerful. This talk shop has no power. It's just going to bring a report or somebody going to put it under the cupboard or put it under their folder, and that's it. So some people just go there and enjoy Abuja and enjoy the nightlife in Abuja and talk, and then that is all. So I don't believe anything going to come out of it. It's just a waste of money and waste of our time.
All right. We are out of time. I want to thank Chris. Chris Aniedobe, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Rudolf.
And Alex Kabba, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
All right. When we come back, we are going to continue our program. Remember that at about 3 p.m., we are going to speak to General Buhari. He will be joining us from Katsina State. So stay tuned.